Hi, I'm Marsha Roscoe, leading the Breathing in Christ community since 2013. Breathing in Jesus, examining what's most important to live into our desire to love God, ourselves, and others deeper. Genesis 2:7 tells us that God's holy breath forms us. Are you ready to consciously connect to Christ one breath at a time? Are you ready to honor every aspect of your life, what you say, what you think and do, as sacred encounters with God and others? Breathing in Christ discovers the life God intends and is here to help you align your habits and your behaviors with God's love. Because after all, how we live is how we love. Again, this is Marsha Roscoe, and welcome to the Breathing in Christ community. Today, I want to talk about running as a spiritual practice. Even if you're not an avid runner or jogger, because trust me, I really am not, there really is a message in here for all of us today. So I have been running pretty regularly since early this year. I would say since about mid-January. And I am 8 months into this now, and I've been able to run through a variety of weather patterns and temperature extremes. And the truth is, it has not gotten any easier, and I really don't necessarily like it any more than I did 8 months ago. Running just does not come naturally to me. And so I've been thinking a lot lately about why is it that I want to run? And years ago, I picked up a book by Roger Joslin called Running the Spiritual Path, a runner's guide to breathing, meditating, and exploring the prayerful dimension of the sport. I mean, doesn't that just sound delightful? Who would not want to explore breathing and meditating as you run? And so when I had tried this years ago, I just did not get very far, literally. It just didn't happen. And so I decided in January to try again, but this time perhaps with a different purpose. When I've tried to run before, it was really for more of the obvious reasons. I mean, who doesn't want to lose weight, to improve cardiovascular exercise, perhaps to reduce stress? I mean, all of those are great reasons, but the truth is it didn't get me very far. And so this time I decided to re-examine what it would look like to have running as a spiritual discipline with an accountability partner. I'm blessed to have a neighbor who is willing to get up at the crack of dawn and hold me accountable and really deepen those connections. And also, I really just wanted to explore the fact that this does not come natural. So I did not want to just abandon it. I wanted to return to it and figure out what might be going on that I could be paying attention to make this more of a regular practice. And so, too, I mean, Roger Joslin in his book really does make the compelling argument that you're able to combine breath and meditation with the art of running. And so I've just always been intrigued by that. And then also just the idea of being outside. And so I'm an air spirituality type, if you know anything about them, and I absolutely love the fresh air. And so we're just committed to trying this again in this new season of life. In his book, Joslin explains that in 1 Corinthians 9:26, the Apostle Paul is really essentially comparing the rigors of the Christian life with athletic competition. Now, I don't believe that the Christian life is a competition. However, I do agree with Joslin that the Apostle Paul understood how the Christian life parallels athletic competition. And so I've just been exploring, what would it look like to run to win? And of course, we're not talking about winning salvation. And so if we use this idea of running as an illustration for spiritual disciplines, I've just been exploring, what does that look like? Running takes focus and concentration, self-control, varying landscapes, outdoor conditions, times where running causes even aches and pains. And of course, these are all good to give us warning signs about our body, and pace is critical. But even before you actually get out and run, I mean, running just requires mental and physical preparation. But I think that for me, the running as a spiritual practice is actually much simpler because you don't need all of this fancy sport equipment or gear. It really is pretty simple. Now, the caveat to that is I do highly, highly recommend really good sneakers. But the simplicity of running is really what has spoken to me lately because running and prayer can go hand in hand, especially because of their simplicity. And so for the purposes of this podcast, I am not going to go into the many ideas that Roger Joslin has in his book. So if you want some really practical, thought-provoking approaches to running as a spiritual discipline, I do commend his book to you. It's filled with all sorts of ideas on how to combine running with practices like the Jesus prayer or other chants and mantras, along with insights on the phases and stages of our faith lives and how we might bring those to God in prayer on the trail. But what I do want to lift up today is leaving us with this notion that God provided recently when I was reflecting on running as a spiritual discipline. As I shared earlier, I am blessed with a running companion, and so this is a natural, obvious, symbolic connection to my relationship with God, right? I mean, I have someone that's willing to get up and be outside waiting for me already with their shoes on and ready to go. That's undoubtedly a metaphor that is true of God as well, that God is there waiting and ready for us. But what was not so obvious to me until recently was how the gift of the accountability partner is how God has been pacing my life. There have been plenty of times on the trail where I would try to be side by side with my running partner, or I would try to be ahead. But recently, the metaphor that was given to me in running is that God is the pacer of our life. And if I allow my running partner to be the pacer, I would be much safer sometimes. So maybe running isn't a sport of yours. Maybe race car driving is more your speed. But for me, the two have something in common, and that's the idea of a pace car. So if you know anything about race car driving, the pace car, which is also known as the safety car, comes onto the track to set everyone's speed and position during temporarily hazardous conditions. Think about that for a moment. The pace car comes onto the trail or the track to set everyone's speed and position to keep us safe. And so I realized recently that when I allow my better conditioned running partner to be the pace car, if you will, she not only clears out the cobwebs in front of me, because we're often the first ones to hit the trail in the morning, but she sets the speed and the position that helps to keep me safe. And so sometimes it's hard for us to recognize that we're on temporarily hazardous conditions and that God is right there in front of us setting our place and our speed. But when we do, we catch these amazing glimpses of grace. We find God in the everyday, ordinary moments of our lives. So whether you enjoy running or race car driving, I invite you to look around for God and notice how God is already setting our speed and our position on the path. And as always, wherever you are, take a few moments to breathe in Christ.